So Jupiter is, we're moving out. There's a kind of empty space between Mars and Jupiter, occupied by thousands of asteroids, where there might once have been a planet, I suppose. And these asteroids are often used in astrology. I'm not going to introduce them now because they're very complicated, and I'm not much of an expert on them. And you don't need to know about them to do a good horoscope interpretation. So moving on to Jupiter, it's so huge compared to as soon as you get beyond Mars, you get to these huge gas planets: Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune. They're many, many times bigger than the Earth, and have their own solar system, their own satellite system, you could say. And the Moon, Jupiter has many moons around it, where some of the moons are almost as big as Earth. So Jupiter has this sense that it's almost like the Sun. So you could say negative Jupiter thinks a lot of itself. But generally Jupiter is the drive for expansion and for wisdom. And Jupiter is what keeps you going. You wake up in the morning and you think, what am I going to do today? And you're motivated by some kind of vision of how you'd like the future to be. That motivation power is Jupiter. And Jupiter in the horoscope is going to show how you get motivated, or to what degree you get motivated. So, for example, Jupiter in Sagittarius is motivated by understanding, really getting a great overview and perspective on life, whereas Jupiter in Gemini, the opposite sign, is more interested in acquiring mental knowledge. But whatever Jupiter wants to do, it does it a lot. So it kind of exaggerates where it is, and that can be a pretty good thing, but it can also get a bit manic. So Jupiter is generally seen as incredibly fortunate, but it does have it does tend to overdo things sometimes. And this shell represents, to me at least, some of the magic and mystery of Jupiter, in the sense that, as you can see, really it's the growth. Something's growing here, this kind of growth and expansion is so typical of Jupiter. In fact, shells like this can be used to make a huge noise, like a horn. And this horn, and the horn of plenty, is very much an expression of Jupiter. And Jupiter loves to see the world and travel and expand, likes to have this wonderful overview of the world. You know, I've been places, I've seen things, I've done that. So any kind of travel, long distance travel specifically, is connected with Jupiter. But Jupiter is also something connected. It's connected with what is with ethics. It's connected with justice. Libra is a sign that's kind of connected with justice, but Jupiter is the thinking that works out, is this right or is it wrong? And Jupiter in the horoscope shows where your beliefs are, what you believe is right, and how strong those beliefs and how wise those beliefs are would all be seen by Jupiter in the horoscope. For example, if Jupiter and Pluto tends to be a bit fanatic, if Jupiter and Pluto were together in the horoscope, then there would be extremely powerful beliefs that would have a tendency towards fanaticism. But Jupiter is a very powerful force in society. That's why I've got a picture of the Supreme Court here. That is a good expression of Jupiter made concrete in society. And Jupiter is like wisdom. So here we have the three wise men, who was actually supposed to be astrologers, I believe. So anybody who's interested in acquiring wisdom, or when you're interested in acquiring wisdom, it's Jupiter that's at work. And just like the Sun and Moon can be paired and are like equally powerful, astrologically speaking, and Mars and Venus can be paired, like the masculine and feminine principle, Jupiter and Saturn can also be paired. Because Jupiter is this expansive belief in what is possible, and Saturn is the voice of experience, what didn't work out, what you've learned, what you must do, before anything will succeed. So Jupiter and Saturn working in harmony together would enable you to build great things. But Saturn is sort of seen as the taskmaster in the horoscope. In other words, wherever Saturn is, you have a lifelong challenges and trials. So whatever house is the horoscope, whatever planet it's connected with. For example, if you have, let's say, Venus and Saturn connected, well then your relationships, that's Venus and Saturn, would be a challenge for you. You'd have many more challenges than normal in relationships. And because Saturn has a 30-year orbit around the Sun, when you're 15, Saturn goes halfway round, and Venus has a sort of 8-year rhythm when you're 16. So this age, 50, if you've got a Venus-Saturn connection, when you're about 15 to 16, you'll always have a more challenging and formative relationship, which will form the way you're not going to let yourself be vulnerable later on because of this experience you've had. So Saturn also shows the authority. It'll show authorities in society. And you can't get around Saturn. There's no easy route past Saturn. You have to take the challenges as they come and overcome the challenges. So Congress would be a place where a lot of very strong Saturn types would come. Saturn's connected with ambition, it's connected with government, it's connected with the state, and especially politicians, people who want to rise up and have some kind of power or authority in society. It can also be connected with the police or anybody with authority one way or another. And there's two ideas with this image, and one is Saturn is connected with time. Whenever an important event takes place, it's like the clock of Saturn ticks. If you get married, the cycle of Saturn is a 30-year cycle, so 7.5 years, 15 years, and 30 years would be important moments in the cycle. Saturn is like Father Time, but there's also this kind of sense of burden. Saturn is where you shoulder the burdens of life and live up to the responsibilities that come your way. So the right attitude to Saturn is to recognize responsibility when it comes and just shoulder it, then get on with it, and you'll overcome the challenges and make great progress. And these are the challenges, you see. There are huge obstacles in your path with Saturn. It's where have these obstacles come from? It's karma. It's your previous actions. Your previous actions have created seemingly immovable obstacles, which are going to take a tremendous amount of time and concentration to overcome. And Saturn is like connected with old age. You say with Saturn that when you're young it's difficult, and the older you get, the easier it gets, because you put such a big effort in the early years, and you gain experience. So everything moves slower when you're old, and your body moves slower, and it all gets stiff. This is kind of Saturn territory. Saturn, you need to be really patient.